Hi, everyone. I'm Carly.
And I'm Sophia.
And this is Away She Goes, a podcast from her adventures.
Each episode will help you feed your wanderlust with travel tips, stories, inspiration, and more. Away she goes. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Away She Goes. Today, we are joined by Paul Gowder, who will tell us a little bit about powwows in the context of Native American Heritage Month, which is November right now. Yeah. So, hi, Paul. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm excited to talk today.
So would you like to start by giving our listeners a little bit information about yourself, who you are, what you do?
Yeah, my name is Paul Gowder, and I started powwows.com a long time ago, back in 1996. It was really an accident teaching myself how to do HTML. And from there, our community grew and people wanted to know more about the things we were talking about, but more importantly, people wanted to connect with each other. And so a community was built, and over the years, it eventually turned into a business. And so 20 something years later, we're still out there. And so as far as myself, that's kind of how I started the site. But I live in South Carolina. I am descendant of the Cherokee tribe, and recently was able to go full-time with powwows.com and retire from a state government job.
Nice.
Married and have a daughter who is in her freshman year at college. And we're big travelers too. We love traveling. That's been one of the things that we as a family have prioritized. So I'm excited to talk to you guys today and hope to get more people out to powwows.
All right. And that actually leads me into our first question. Would you mind just sharing with our listeners? We do have listeners globally. I would say, Sophia, what do you think? The majority of them are North American, but
yes.
just for people who may not know, would you mind explaining what a powwow is?
Sure. So powwows are ways that Native American tribes nowadays celebrate. And, you know, if you're like me, I'm down here in the South, in South Carolina, and small towns down here have festivals for everything. We have a Chitlin festival, an Okra festival. We have everything. So Native tribes over the years have kind of done the same thing with powwows. It's their festival. It's their annual gathering. Sometimes tribes will have it as their annual homecoming. Some families will have a powwow just once to celebrate a graduation or a wedding or something like that. And some events, of course, are annual and happen every year. But these are just times to come together and celebrate. And so what you would expect at a powwow, it's like any other festival you go to. You're going to see vendors selling goods and crafts and things like that. You're going to have food there, as well as the dancing and singing that people kind of have seen maybe on videos or whatever. But you're going to have lots of dancing and singing throughout the weekend.
Sounds great. So if people were to want to travel to go to a powwow, what should people know before taking part in one, especially from the cultural aspect? Like how does somebody participate without exploiting or being culturally insensitive to the communities that are involved?
Yeah, great question. So one of the questions we get asked most often are powwows open to the public? And yes, if you see a powwow, it's open to the public. It is meant for spectators to come and enjoy. And so if you're looking, plug here, powwows.com/calendar, that is the most comprehensive powwow list on the internet. So go there, and you can find one. We have them listed in all 50 states, and most of Canada. And there are some that happen in Europe occasionally, especially on some of the military bases over there. But there also are some groups over there that put on powwows. So you can look for that as well. But, as far as going to your first powwow, I would encourage you to, first of all, know that you're going into, a cultural experience. So go with an open mind, go with being respectful. That's important to go in knowing that it is somebody else's culture that you're witnessing. So, as long as you go in with that, I think you're going to be okay. at most powwows, there's going to be an MC who's kind of telling you what's going on, telling the dancers and singers what to do next, that kind of thing, keeping the event moving. So listen to him, because they're going to give prompts as to, when it's proper to stand, when you need to be quiet for something, or even there's times when they don't want you to take pictures, things like that. So listen to the MC is always, that's a good start too. But as far as going to your first powwow, I'd say just go in, and just really be open to it. And it's going to be something different than you've ever seen as far as the dancing and singing. And we put out a lot of videos, and people, our videos are really popular, but it's totally different to be there and experience the sounds and the movement and everything in person. So I really do encourage people to go out there and check out a powwow. I think most people, especially if they're traveling and they like to see different things, this is going to be a really unique experience for them.
I have to check the website out, and we will put the website and all of the links and everything into the episode description so that people can check those out. I actually, just so you know, I live in upstate New York near the Onondaga Nation territory.
Yeah.
So I'm super familiar with the Onondaga Nation and their tribes, but I've never been to a powwow. So I'm definitely going to look into that and see if there's something in my area that I can go to, because I've always been interested in their culture because I've grown up so close to it.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's some good ones up in that area.
Yeah. Have you, so I'm sure you've traveled to participate in these powwows before. Do you have any just stories or experiences from just your own, your own personal,
yeah, so a couple
trip?
things when you say that. And we've been very fortunate with powwows.com to get to travel to a lot of different places. Probably one of my favorite memories is my wife and I got to travel in, we had a friend that was stationed. His work moved him for 9 months. He got to live in Honolulu. And so we were able, while we were there, we visiting him for a couple of weeks. We actually got to go to the powwow out there. That was really cool to be able to dance in downtown Honolulu. That was really awesome. But also, as we're talking about some of the things that we've gotten to travel to and things I would recommend other people checking out, if you're looking to just hit up a powwow in your local area, that's great. Find one and visit that. Most of these are annual events. But two, if you're looking for those once in a lifetime kind of experience powwows, there are some really big ones that I would recommend. So Gathering of Nations is always a highlight of our year traveling. That's in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It is usually the last weekend in April. That is the biggest powwow that there is. You're talking, a festival that brings in 100 to 125,000 people over the weekend. You're going to see 3,000 to 4,000 dancers, dozens of singers. They have a music festival attached to it too. So you're going to see lots of Native American music groups, soloists, whether it's, traditional music, rock, jazz, all kinds of stuff, as well as the powwow. So that's one I would highly recommend people check out. Also Denver March Powwow. That one kind of kicks off the powwow season every year. It's obviously held in March in Denver, Colorado. That's a really good one to go visit. On the East Coast, Seminole Tribal Fair in February is a really good one down there in Florida. So yeah, those are a couple of ones that we enjoy going to and have great memories of. But for sure, if you're looking for that once in a lifetime thing, Gathering of Nations is it's like the Super Bowl of powwows.
I've actually heard of it before.
Yeah, it's big. It's a big festival. I mean, just by not just being the biggest powwow, it's one of the biggest festivals in the country. They draw in a lot of people.
That's so interesting. Sophia, we're going to a powwow. Sophia has to travel to I guess you don't have to travel to the US to go to a powwow.
Yeah, and there's I know some people that travel quite frequently to Europe. I have a friend right now who's planning a trip. A group is bringing him over to spend like 2 weeks in Switzerland dancing and putting on some events. So that's really cool. There's a lot of the European governments and museums and places over there really reach out and bring in a lot of cultural performances, not just Native American, but they bring in people all over the world. So that's really cool that some of these Native folks do get to go over and do that. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. I hope you definitely go find one in your local area. That there's some really, really good powwows too. But then if you're talking the big ones, that Gathering is the one to go to.
Yeah, I'm sure
Cool.
that locally especially where I live. I'm sure that there are some really good local ones I could check out.
Yeah, we've been up the Marvin Curry powwow. It's up in Seneca, New York. And that one's really cool. And this is another thing that's, I don't want to get too deep into what powwow, all the details of powwows, but what you're going to see at most powwows is kind of the dance styles are, while they are tribal specific, there are certain dance styles that are done at all the powwows. But as you travel to different parts of the country, you're going to see regional dances and things that are particular to that group of tribes in that region. So if you get to go to powwows up in like New York area, you're going to see smoke dancing. And that's a totally different style that's not done in many places. It's really up in the Northeast and Midwest. Iroquois type dance and some other tribes that do the smoke dancing. So that's really cool. I just went to a powwow in September in California, and the California tribes and the Southwest tribes, one of their style of dancing is called bird singing. And so you get to see a lot of that out there. And the powwow we were at, they have a whole section just for the bird singing. So that's really cool too, to get to go to these regional powwows and see some of the different things that these tribes do, not just the dance styles that are done at any powwow across the country.
That is so cool. So yeah, if I can't find one here at Cali when I'm coming over,
yeah,
we'll have to find one there.
That'll be one of the things I show you.
Yay! The trip is slowly coming together.
It is, I know. So Paul, just so you know, I'm in upstate New York. Sophia's actually in Germany. So
awesome.
we always joke and plan that she's got to come to upstate New York, and I'll show her around.
For sure. We went to Europe this summer for the first time, and so we didn't make it to Germany, but we did spend almost a month over there, so it was pretty fun. We're hoping to get back next summer.
Where did you go?
I was going to say that.
We went to, we did Italy. So for the first part, so we were in Rome, Venice, Florence, Tuscany, and then we did a couple of days in Paris. I got kind of cut short because we had some flights canceled. The airline had to actually put us up in a hotel overnight. That was crazy. Being driven out in the middle of nowhere in Europe that you have no idea where you're going, and some buses taking you. Yeah, that was an experience. But and then we spent a few days in London, and then we also did a 9-night cruise that took us all over Greece and Croatia.
Oh,
I'm so jealous.
That sounds amazing.
That was my daughter's graduation trip, so it was pretty awesome. So we're hoping to get back over there this summer. Looking at Spain probably.
Very nice choice too.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been, but I think Sophia probably has.
Yeah, I have quite a few times.
Perks of living in Europe.
Yeah. It was so easy to get around. It was great.
Yeah, once you're there, it's so easy. So this episode is going to be released in November,
right,
for Native American Heritage Month. Do you want to just share any other information with our listeners about Native American Heritage Month, and just so people can kind of understand some resources that they maybe can look into, how to get involved?
Yeah, and we'll be publishing next week our guide to Native American Heritage Month, what it is, kind of the history of it, and our recommendations on how you should celebrate it, whether you're Native or not. Some of the best ways that you can help and participate and support Natives during that month. So when we publish that, I'll make sure I send you guys a link. But yeah, it is a time that we can, as a country, can kind of highlight some of the stories that are going on. And our goal at powwows.com is to amplify some of the stories of these Native artists, these Native dancers, some of these entrepreneurs. And so what we'll be doing as a website is trying to feature some of those in different ways. So if you're wanting to celebrate Native Heritage Month, I highly encourage, as you're doing your holiday shopping, go check out a couple of Native-owned businesses. There's some really great ones out there doing some awesome things. 8th Generation makes some amazing blankets. Beyond Buckskin is really making a splash in the fashion world. If you're wanting to even just know more about Native culture, there's some great shows right now on that will really help. And hey, as a family, that'd be a great thing in November. Binge one of these shows. Go watch Reservation Dogs on Hulu or Rutherford Falls on Peacock. Those are two fabulous shows that really show kind of what modern life is like for Natives. But yeah, I think it's a great time for everybody to maybe take a moment and hopefully learn something and just at least spend a little time getting to understand what's going on with tribes. And that's one of the things too. Always like to tell people is when we start talking about powwows and visiting powwows and Native American Heritage Month, I get this question a lot when I do school talks: is, are natives real? Or that those the kids are really asking what's going on now. They don't understand that all they see is in a history book, maybe a black and white picture of a native living in a teepee or something, and the culture and the tribes and even the powwows, these are evolving things. They're still changing, they're still happening. So yes, spend a little time in November and understand that they're not stuck in history books, that the culture is changing and still alive, and there's lots of ways to go out and experience that.
That sounds very interesting. This is a very off the top of my head question, so I'm not sure if you have an impromptu answer for that.
Okay.
But do you know any books to read that like present more than just the history, maybe more of a like personal retelling or something like that?
Yes, you're challenging me. I am pulling up a list right now. Let's see. Thomas King is an author that we've highlighted before. He's done some books on history and treatment of natives. Let's see. I mean, some of these are fiction books. That Joey Harjo has done some really great work. That's another good one. There's a book right now called They're There. It is a fiction book, but it does kind of dive into what's going on in some of the modern issues and recent things that are happening. That is by Tommy Orange. It's won a lot of awards, so that's a really good one too to check out.
That sounds very good. I'm definitely going to check that out. I already pulled up there
Yeah.
on my online bookshop.
You mentioned, Paul, shopping at native owned stores and stuff like that. In addition to what you've already mentioned, are there other ways that we can support Native American communities, not just in November, but all year round?
Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. So, and that's one of the things, like during the pandemic, that we kind of shifted at powwows.com, and we've tried to help out in that. So another link you can give people is powwows.com/shop native. We have a directory of native owned businesses and native companies and native products. So we're trying to continue to build out that database and show people, here's things that you can go and, not just in November, not just during the holiday season, but these are companies you can support. As well as we have a talent directory. So if you're looking, to bring somebody in at your school to do a speech or your conference, whatever, powwows.com/native talent. So those are two ways. But, again, I think it's probably the best way to really start and to understand this is going back to get out to a powwow, go visit these local powwows. And that's a great way to show support, spend some money there, go to a vendor and first of all, talk to them, get to know them, ask them some questions about the things they're selling, and then support them. Same thing at the powwow, go and visit the powwow. And if there's a cover charge or whatever, that really helps support that local group. And of course, there's some charities that you can always get involved with and make donations. At powwows.com, we are partnered with the American Indian College Fund and helping young Native scholars go to school and get degrees. So that's a really good one that you can learn more about. And during November, they're actually doing a challenge. They're challenging people to walk 35 miles during the month of November. And that's to help raise awareness of the needs for higher education in Native communities and raise a little money for that too.
That's very cool.
That is great. There's so much going on in November.
Yes.
I didn't have any concept that all this is going on. This is great.
And, if you want to, even if there's some folks out there that really want to dig deeper, I highly recommend there's if everybody's listening as podcast listeners, there's a podcast out there called This Land. It is a fabulously produced podcast. She does a really great job with it. I've had her on my podcast a couple of times, and she follows Supreme Court cases that are affecting Native tribes. And there are a couple pending right now that will have huge impacts for tribal sovereignty and how tribes are going to their relationship with the U.S. government going forward. So that's a really good podcast if people want to really understand some of the challenges facing tribes right now.
Great. We can link that in the episode description as well, just so everybody has all these resources as they're listening.
Yeah. Oh, and another really cool, I forgot about this, and I was also talking about shows. Just this week on October 10th, which was Indigenous Peoples Day, Netflix released a show called Spirit Rangers, and it's an animated show based on some Native American stories, and the folks producing it are all Native writers, all Native actors. It's a really cool show for children, and it's going to incorporate some Native traditions and things into the show. So that's a really cool one to check out too.
Sophia, are you looking it up right now?
Yes, you know me. I have to check
animation-
it
I
out.
saw her eyes darting. I knew.
I
that.
also
the
have to see
animation
if
is
it's
awesome.
on Netflix Germany.
It's a really well done show. It's really cool.
Yes, it is.
That's great. She's adding it to the list.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the story is like there's a group of kids who their parents are park rangers, and they each kind of the kids have a little superpower and to help the park and everything. So it's really neat.
I feel like we've covered a lot in a very short amount
Yes.
of time. We're covering a lot of ground here. Is there anything else? We typically record between 20 and 30 minutes. Is there anything else that we have not gone over yet that you would like our listeners to know, or anything that you want to provide more details on?
Yeah, I think we've touched just about all the stuff that I think, but I just encourage anybody who's looking to experience a little bit of another culture, and to take your family out and have a really good weekend, and see some really unique dances and singing. Go visit those powwows and find them in your local area. Like I said, on our calendar, we have them in all 50 states. So you definitely can find one close to you, and get out there. And most people that I tell that and they do that, they keep going back year after year to that same powwow. And so it becomes a kind of an annual tradition, and they really enjoy it. And, when you do go to these powwows, like I said about vendors, and same thing with dancers, they're just people. Go up and talk to them, ask them questions. Of course, be respectful if they're trying to head out and get to a dance or whatever. Maybe wait, but yeah, these guys are some of these powwow folks. This is what they do. They do this every weekend, and they travel all over the country dancing. Some of these powwows are contests, so the dancers are earning money, and that's kind of one of the ways they support their family. So stop and talk to them. Most of them would love to give you a little more information. And I think it's really cool, especially if you get that little bit of personal interaction too.
So, Paul, thank you first and foremost for sharing all of this with us. This has been incredibly insightful. I personally am going to look up Onondaga Nation powwows and see they're very close to where I am. So, would you mind letting our listeners know where we can find you online, social media? And again, we'll have everything linked in the episode description that Paul has talked about if everybody wants to go check that out as well.
Yeah, please go check us out at powwows.com, and I'll send some other links of some of the resources we have, especially for first-time powwow visitors. Our calendar is powwows.com/calendar. Myself, I've been doing this for a long time, and you can find me over at paulgowder.com. I'm also a social media coach, email marketing coach, and so you can visit over there at paulgowder.com.
That's all for this episode. If you'd like more Away She Goes in your life, make sure to stop by heradventures.com/podcast. That's where you can fill out a form if you're interested in being a guest on the show. And you can also write to us at awayshegowsgwt@gmail.com, or leave us a message on our Google voicemail from any phone or computer at 1-563-503-6323. To follow our adventures, you can follow me on Instagram at Carly Sees the World. Carly is spelled Carli.
You can also follow me at Sophia AEZ. Sophia is spelled Sophia. Away She Goes is part of Her Adventures, a community dedicated to radically redefining travel to be inclusive, sustainable, and empowering. You can learn more about Her Adventures, find travel tips and support, shop travel-themed items made by our members, and join our Facebook group with nearly 100,000 women all around the world. All at heradventures.com. We can't wait to connect and explore with you. Away she goes.